What is up, Rally Tal fam? Good evening. Welcome to the show. Ring 'em Up, presented by Rally Tal Sport, Thursday nights. Todd and Bobby here with you. We got the NBA draft. We're talking baseball, brawls, and obviously the Reds. Todd, how we feeling tonight?
My brother, the NBA draft's on.
I
The
have it
Reds
right
are on an
here.
11-game winning streak. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful 78 degrees in Columbus, Ohio today. I mean,
Pinching myself.
it's magical. I'm feeling magical. I think that's the only way I can describe it. Obviously, I am wearing my Pacers gear this evening to support the very limited supported Indiana Pacers at this current juncture in the NBA. So also repping
I
the
saw
old
that.
Solus up here. It's
Yeah.
been a minute since I've worn this hat. I
That
had
is
to.
that is exclusive merch because it no longer exists.
Rob, liking the stream. What's up, my brother? Thank you for stopping in. But
Good
dude,
evening.
I
Dirty
honestly
Harry.
can't. I can't complain. I can't complain.
Good,
How
man.
are you?
You know what, man? I'm good, dude. I'm good. I'm just I'm happy to be doing this, man. I missed you. I feel like we haven't talked in since last week. It's been a minute, so it's always good to be on here with you. I almost wore my Tracy McGrady socks tonight, but I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Ooh, what
I
a
still have
throwback
those. They
call.
are in great shape. So Todd and his brother went to Cooperstown, did like a little trip through New York, and Todd brought me back some Toronto Raptor Tracy McGrady socks
From the NBA store in
from the
Manhattan.
NBA store in New York.
That
So
was those were
one of
those.
my favorite things that I have, and I still wear them to this day. And that
I
I don't know how
appreciate
long
that,
ago
man.
that was, but
That
that was
was
years ago.
that was before Mary and I were dating. So
Yeah.
it was April of 2016.
God, we're
Seven
old.
over 7 years ago.
We are old. All right.
You know what? That's what does that say about Stant socks? Honestly, because here's a fun
they're
fact that
still
I
in good
have.
shape too. They've lost a
Right,
little bit
so
of their color, but you can still tell who it is.
that's showbiz, baby. But I still have my Nolan Ryan socks from Cooperstown,
Hell yeah.
still in great shape, and I also have. Nick's bought me a couple pairs of those socks too through the years because for those of you that are listening, watching, whatever, Bobby and I are both big sock guys, big
Socks,
time sock
hats,
guys.
and when we
Yeah,
had to
so
wear ties.
Yeah, so when we started our professional life post college, we both had to wear business attire full time. So
All day, every day.
both companies that we worked for, there was very limited leeway on what you could physically wear that people could see, right? You had to wear specific colors, no patterns. So the only way
There
you
were
can
two
express yourself,
exceptions: socks and ties.
socks and ties. That's it. That's it. And shoes. And shoes. But
Shoes.
I mean
Yeah.
dress shoes. So you can
Right.
only go so far with a dress shoe, but I will
You
say I
remember
feel
my brown and white wingtips that I had?
dude the monk strap wingtips. Yeah. Yeah.
Those were
I mean,
sexy,
I
and
ripped that off and
I ruined them.
no,
I
that's right. You had white and
I still
brown
have a pair. I got another
wingtips.
pair.
Yeah. But those weren't monk strap ones. Your other ones were the monk strap ones that I'm thinking of.
Mhm.
I got big into that style of dress shoe when I was working for Kroger
My
because
shoe
I
game
just
on point.
they're the most comfortable and they're
Oh
truly
yeah,
slip-on shoes. Like
yeah. I mean,
there's very limited work.
you and I would take trips down to Johnson and Murphy and hit the clearance rack,
God,
and
yeah.
that's where you could walk out with 4 pairs of shoes for $400 when. If you're going in there and buying those when they first come out, you're dropping easily over $750 on
Yeah.
like 2 pairs.
Yep.
So you gotta hit that clearance rack, baby.
Gotta hit
Clearance
the
rack at the
clearance rack.
outlet mall. All right. Well, without further ado, let's get into it. Obviously, we've had a couple picks tonight. We'll keep you updated on the NBA draft.
Nick, thanks for liking the stream. What's up, my brother?
Obviously, Wembenyama went one. Who went number two?
Number 2 was Brandon Miller of the University of Alabama. 3 was Scoot Henderson from
Yep.
G League, and number 4 was the first of the Thompson brothers, Amen Thompson, getting drafted by the Houston Rockets. Don't be surprised if number 5, the Pistons, go his twin brother, Amir Thompson, here right after that. I think that these guys are. It's interesting because we might see 4 of the first 5 being non-university athletes being drafted to the NBA draft.
Yeah.
I think that's a thing to remember from tonight that I'm saying now that I hope those that are listening or watching go, oh yeah, that's a good point. When's the last time you heard that?
Yeah. No,
it's been
absolutely.
a long time because even these guys that were coming out of high school to play into the NBA, there wasn't 4 of them getting drafted in the top 10, right? It was 1, maybe 2. I can't remember the last time that there were 2 guys in the top 5 that were drafted that were not college. I played at least 1 year of college basketball. So somebody could fact check that for me or something. If you're listening, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're going to get into the baseball brawls here in a second. We've got a laundry list of them to talk about. We're not going to rank them, or we're just going to kind of talk about
Just
some
gonna rap,
favorites.
baby.
But I do want to discuss one thing while we're on the topic of the NBA. There was an additional trade done after the big trade yesterday.
Mhm.
Chris Paul is now a member of the Warriors.
Yeah, and Jordan Poole is now a wizard. So here's the interesting thing, because Kuzma's gone, right? He declined, so he's a free agent now. Bradley Beal gone, right? Because you got to remember, he's already been traded. He was the initial piece between a 3-team trade with Chris Paul, right, to the Suns, and that trade got completed today. And I believe there was a total of 10 draft picks in that trade as well. 6 second-round picks and 4 first-round picks to finalize that, right? So you're talking about Bradley Beal's gone. Kyle Kuzma's gone. Kristaps Porzingis is gone right now, a member of the Boston Celtics, pending a physical for him too. So I think the interesting thing here, when you're looking at a team like the Wizards, that obviously they didn't really have much of a chance to get into the playoffs or anything, but they have nothing left, because another part of the Chris Paul Bradley Beal trade was a Morris brother too. So I believe that their best scorer is going to be Jordan Poole. And I'm not 100% bought in on Jordan Poole yet. I'm really not. I think that
I think Golden State moving on from him is a testament of what they really think about him.
So I'm not super surprised, because he's bound to get some money. Bless you. He's bound to get some money one way or another. But yeah, here we go. Pistons taking Asar Thompson here right after his brother Amen. So again, 4 of the first 5 players drafted, all 5 of them under the age of 20 as well.
Wow.
Yeah. But back to the Jordan Poole thing. I think it's Washington is trying to kind of, I don't want to call it tank, right? Because I don't think it's a tank, but they're going to be bad. Yeah, I mean, they're going to be bad. So maybe they're banking on hitting the lottery next year, getting a number 1 overall pick or a top 5 pick, and getting, somebody like the likes of this draft class. I don't know what the 2024 NBA draft class looks like yet off the top of my head, but yeah, I think for the Warriors, Chris Paul is the second best passer of all time. So I think he makes Klay Thompson and Steph Curry better, but I'm interested to see who's going to be there. Who's next up, right? Who's next up for Golden State? Because, I was talking to Nick earlier. They drafted a guy by the name of Jordan Kuminga out of the Republic of Congo, and they drafted him at 6'8". And I was listening/reading. He's 7'2" now.
I saw that.
He's grown 7 inches since he's been drafted. And here's the next wild thing about him. In the time that he played last year for the Warriors, he averaged 2 points a minute, because he played 8 to 10 minutes a game, and he was averaging 8 points a game. So, I mean,
Warriors are going to be scary.
I don't know. See, I don't know, because I don't know how he fits into what they do right now, because unless he's a crazy ball handler and he could shoot. Again, I don't know enough about him.
Here's what I think is going to happen, and this is why I think what the Warriors are doing right now for like the back half of Steph's at prime is really smart. I don't think Draymond comes back.
I don't either.
I don't think Draymond comes back. I think Kuminga slides into that 5 spot. I think you got Paul at the 1, you got Steph at the 2, Clay at the 3, Iggy at the 4, and then Kuminga at the 5. That's your starting lineup in a perfect world, no injuries, right? And I think that lineup is extremely competitive throughout the entire league. I don't think there's a lot of teams that will stack up well with them. I the one thing I'm going to be interested to see is how the dynamic works with Chris Paul and Steph Curry. I'm interested to see them
Well,
in the
so
backcourt together and how
yeah,
that's going to work.
and they still have Andrew Wiggins too. So I think Iggy's out. You sub Wiggins in there in the starting 5,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about Chris Paul being on the Warriors yet. That one that's a head scratcher for me for the time being because
how much does he have left?
Yeah, he's 37, so I mean, maybe for him this is something where Golden State. I mean, I don't know. He doesn't get a say in where he gets traded to ultimately, but
right.
I could also see this being a thing where they just buy him out and he becomes a free agent too. I could see that happening. I could see that move being made by Chris Paul. So I don't know. I think we'll see. We'll see where things go. I think if he would have stayed in Washington, we definitely would have seen the "see you later, I'm done here, buy me out." So maybe this was, hey, don't keep me here, give me somewhere else. And Golden State was like, hey, we got we want, we want to get rid of Jordan Poole, but you need to give me something back because I don't know they haven't finalized the details of that trade yet, but Golden State's getting a little bit of love on top of that trade between there as well because of the salary difference. So, it'll be interesting to see what the direction Washington tries to go, and then even more interesting to see how Golden State matches up. Right, we watched them struggle a lot this year in terms of being able to kind of take over games like they used to. I think that's something that we just got really acclimated to over the last decade was their ability to just shoot their way out of trouble. And they did not shoot their way out of trouble in the playoffs. So I'm really interested to see how Chris Paul kind of fits into that weird. It's the first time since Steve Kerr's been the coach where there's question marks about who's going to play where and what the minutes look like. Because
it's going to be interesting, man. I think the West is going to be interesting this year, as it always is. I mean, obviously you've got the reigning champs coming in the West, but I think every team is literally just trying to do whatever they can to try to stack up against Denver. I think
that's a great point. That's a great point because I think that you're seeing a team like Golden State making a move to say, well, we need to figure out a way to slow down Jokic, and maybe that is Jordan Kuminga because they also have James Wiseman from Memphis that they drafted or they got a trade a couple of years ago. So they have some big guys, and Kevin Looney's a decent big. He's not a Nikola Jokic big, but he's a decent defending big. So
right.
I agree with you. I think Draymond's done. I don't think we see him in a Warrior uniform anymore. I don't think he's done with the NBA. But
there's some rumor of him going out to LA. Do you see that happening?
No, I think you're actually going to see the Lakers make a trade in the NBA draft tonight. I said this in our group chat, and I've been seeing a little bit of additional traction on it. The Lakers really want Miles Turner.
I saw that. Yeah.
They really want Miles Turner. So the Pacers are 110% in full rebuild mode right now because if they trade Miles Turner, and a part of that deal has been Buddy Hield. So you're trading 2 of your top 3 scorers away when you do something like that. So you're telling Tyrese Halliburton and Benedict Mathurin that you're the guys. But they have 3 picks tonight. So or 3 first-round picks, excuse me. So we'll see what happens because if there's a proposed trade between them and Denver where they give one of them up and they get one back next year. But if that doesn't go through, they draft 7, 26, and 29. You could very easily do some damage between those 3 spots in the first round.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's been an interesting offseason already. I know we're, a couple weeks removed from the end of the season, but I feel like it's, the NBA is still cooking.
Marcus Smart's on the Wizards now. Duh, he's a part of that trade.
I thought he went to Memphis.
Oh, yes, right. He did. He went to Memphis. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. You had me thrown for a second. I was like, wait,
what? I confused myself. I apologize. I got a little
It's okay, man. There's been a lot going on. It's okay. It's okay to not get it all straight or keep it all straight. Trust me, I'm having trouble myself.
Tyus Jones. I was flipping Tyus Jones and Marcus Smart. So Marcus Smart, you're right now likely the starting point guard for the Grizzlies. I don't know if he's Dylan Brooks' replacement defensively there. And obviously no Ja Morant for 25 games. And then Tyus Jones goes to the Wizards where he automatically becomes their starting point guard.
Absolutely. Who else do they have?
Yeah, well, it's a great opportunity for him because I think that he got supplemental minutes in Memphis a lot of the time, and he had some pretty decent games this past year. So good opportunity for him to
He's gonna get a shot.
Yeah, he'll get 40 minutes a game. So good chance for him to figure out what he can do. But I'm interested to see what Boston thinks they're going to do with Porzingis when they already have. That was going to be
my next question for you because I'm like, he's had some really, really like concerning health issues the last couple of years. Like he just hasn't
his
been
whole
healthy,
career, bro. Like, I can't think of a time where he hasn't been injured for 10 games.
Yeah, right? So it's like what exactly are they going to try to do with him? You know, because like obviously, you know, Tatum and Brown, those are your guys. Like those are your key pieces. Brown's going to get his deal, you know, at some point or another this offseason. And how does Porzingis fit into that? Even when he's healthy, like I understand that he's a big guy, you know, with a lot of ball skills. You know, he can do a lot. You know, being a plus 7 footer. But like, how is that going to work into their rotation? I would see more of like a classic big man working in that game as opposed to a stretch center.
Well, like they have Robert Williams and Al Horford.
I don't know why Robert Williams just doesn't get all the minutes.
And Grant Williams. Their front court is way, way overloaded. Like this move to me is them trying to turn Kristaps Porzingis into Nikola Jokic. To kind of like hold on to because Porzingis has had those 30, 25 games, right? Like he could do it. He's a good scorer, right? I want to make it very clear. I'm not comparing the two because that's not a comparison. But I think that Boston's thinking like, all right, well, we lost to Miami because we didn't have somebody else to score, right? We didn't have somebody else that we could get the ball to take over the game and score. And Porzingis, when he's healthy, he has the ability to do it. I mean, he had his healthy games in Washington were very good this past season.
Well, I'm just trying to think like, are they just going to try to like load management him and just like give him maybe 20, 25 minutes a game just to try to keep him healthy and extend it through the season?
Yeah, I think you see him and Horford. Well, if he plays 25 minutes a game and they're paying him $36 million, that sucks. That's a waste of money. But I think you do. I think you see between, you know, Rally Towel favorite Robert Williams, you know, Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford. I think you all see those guys somehow get about 30 minutes a game. Any way that you want to spin how they rotate that through, you know, you throw Grant Williams in there too, a Charles Barkley style of power forward.
Yeah.
You see those guys, maybe you say all four of those guys somehow average 30 minutes a game. And whoever's the hot hand plays the additional minutes. Whoever gets in foul trouble early plays the lesser minutes. And then you can rotate the rest as you're kind of going through there too, because Al Horford, you know, it seems like that he should be 50. He's only 35. So
is he really?
Yeah, he's not that old, bro.
Wow.
He's not that old.
I feel like he's been in the league for 20 years already.
That's what I'm saying. It seems like we've been talking about Al Horford since we've been talking about, I don't know, Jerry West, but you know, he's 37. He's 37.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
okay,
so
35 seems young.
Yeah, so again, they're going to rotate minutes for, I don't know. This trade to me doesn't make Boston immensely better because I still don't know who their point guard is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you gave away a hell of a lot of defense in Marcus Smart. Granted, obviously he's a loudmouth, whatever, but like you gave away a very, very good a defensive player of the year. You gave away that type of caliber talent. You know, what are you gonna do to like fill that void?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Are they going to try to draft it, or are they going to try to do another trade? Maybe Porzingis is just trade bait.
Or about to find out who the Wizards are about to try to fill in here. The Magic drafted Anthony Black, guard from Arkansas. Went to a commercial while he was drafted. Big L for the NBA there, and ESPN. I don't understand how any player on a nationally televised event does not get announced live, and we have to watch it after
After
what
the
felt
fact.
like 3 minutes of commercials.
Yeah.
That's not a good look for ESPN here. But so Magic go out and get another young guard to fill in their roster, where I believe the average age now with him coming on drops it down to about 23, 22.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a young team. That's a very young team.
Yeah.
Also learning that he is the product of two D1 college basketball players. Anthony Black is, so it's in his blood.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he's. I'm really excited. I think there's a lot. I think this draft class is really deep.
It's dude. Nick's a very similar echelon of NBA fan as I am, and he and I agreed on that that point earlier today, where if Wemby is 2/3 of what he's supposed to be, and 3 of these top 20 guys pan out to be like year by year,
Could
you're
be
talking
one
about
of the
the
best drafts. And
it could be it's a big draft, man.
Yeah.
I think that Scoot Henderson, I'm very thankful that he didn't end up on the Hornets, because he'd have to share the ball with LaMelo, and that he's not going to work there.
Is LaMelo even going to play?
Nah, who knows? But I'm thinking him and Damian Lillard.
I would love to see him on Portland.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, so
well, I mean, like with Dame.
Yeah,
like I don't want to see Dame leave Portland. I know Dame has said that he has no intentions on leaving.
Yeah,
I hope he stays in Portland, man. I want to see him win in Portland, because Damian Lillard is amazing.
He's a superstar, and it's unfortunate that he's just been on bad teams.
Yeah, it's a bad team.
Yeah, one bad team for
a long ass
enough
time.
That it's frustrating. Yeah, I mean the early years with him and like Aldridge and Brandon Roy just sucks.
If Brandon Roy would have stayed healthy, they would have had a championship.
Dude, it's insane. No, Brandon Roy's my guy. You know this. He's my guy when I talk about like the what if guys in the history of sports.
He's one of the biggest ones.
Yeah. He's my number one. I watched Brandon Roy outscore Kobe multiple times. That's
a problem.
Yeah,
for a lot of people.
He was a real problem. I think that he could have transcended with the game too. I don't think he's a guy that gets lost as the game kind of changes directions, because he could just score at will. It's a shame that the dude his knees were made of glass. It's a tragedy.
Yeah. Yep. That was one of the biggest ones. But anything else NBA wise you want to touch on before we get into this fun baseball talk?
No. Wizards just took a forward from the University of Houston here, so interested to see how he fits in, because he's not known for being a big time scorer. He's more of like your blue collar style of power forward, just kind of a dunker, very similar to like an Aaron Gordon when he entered the NBA. That's what Jarace Walker is. So, dude, I love the NBA draft. I'm disappointed that ESPN's already fumbled the bag one time, and the fact that Anthony Black doesn't get a nationally televised announcement, or like the live announcement that he's going to look back on this, and
motivation.
It's not as bad as Jokic being the Taco Bell commercial draft pick, but to be a lottery pick and not be announced on live
that's tough, man.
That's tough.
They've got a lot to learn from the NFL,
dude. Yeah, that was rough. All right. Brawls and baseball, baby.
I don't really think there's an argument for the best one of all time.
What are you gonna say?
Sorry. So let's preface it with this, chat. These are not in any particular order, but I do think there's one that stands out above the rest. But we're gonna talk. We're not going to rank them. We're just going to talk about some great ones. I know we kind of came in and said we were going to rank, but Todd and I going through everything, we're like, there's too many. There's too many for us to leave anything out. There's too many to put in a correct order, because there's not one. But I think there's one that stands out above the rest, and it involves the Rangers and the White Sox. Todd probably knows what I'm talking about.
I do. The Pacers just drafted the other guy from Victor Wembanyama's professional team. But
by Lau Cooley. I don't even know how to say that.
Koulibaly.
Koulibaly. That.
Yeah, but there's already rumors that he might be getting traded to the Wizards. So stay tuned for that.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I kind of had like three that I wanted to discuss. This was the first one. Obviously, Nolan Ryan throwing and hitting Robin Ventura. And then Robin Ventura thinks about it, throws his helmet, and then he's in it. He charges the mound.
I think it's the most lopsided one-on-one fight baseball's ever had.
I just think it's the coolest one because I think it's just awesome that like Nolan Ryan just puts him in a headlock and proceeds to punch him. What was it, 8 or 9 times before they actually like split them up?
Yeah, and I think there was a 15. I think there was a 15 or 16-year age difference between the two of them by then too, because that was
young Robin Ventura,
late 1980s, early 1990s when that went down. So, I mean, it's wild to think that Nolan Ryan was still pitching that long, but yeah, I mean, it's one of the more iconic pictures in baseball too, where you see Nolan Ryan having Robin Ventura in a headlock and just boom, 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 haymakers. And I think it's one of the more iconic interviews I've ever seen about a fight too. And I'm sure you've seen this too, is when they interview Robin Ventura about the fight, where he said, I thought about it and then I just committed to it. And I started running out there and I was like, oh, fuck, what am I doing? And it
turned back now.
And he said that the moment where he got scared was that Nolan Ryan didn't change, right? When Robin Ventura started running at him, all Nolan Ryan did was just drop his glove. He didn't throw it down. He didn't, rip his jersey.
He's like, all right, this is happening.
He just put his glove down and basically just gotten I would call it like a old timey fighting stance, right? Like, yeah. And then just proceeded to, manhandle. That's the best way he could describe
just caught him.
Robin Ventura, and just boop, boop,
Ventura
boop,
tried to tackle
boop,
him, realized that wasn't possible.
Because Nolan Ryan was he was a big dude too, and Robin Ventura wasn't a slouch, right? He wasn't a small guy, and he was coming off of being, God, he was the top player in college baseball at UCLA when all this went down, and this was very early in his career, and it changed he is more known for being the guy that got his ass kicked by Nolan Ryan than anything else in his career.
Which sucks, but that's also his fault.
Right.
He made the decision.
And he had to lie in it. That's absolutely what happened there. Yeah.
He made his bed, got his ass kicked, and rest is history.
To me, it's the most iconic image of a fight in baseball history for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's really like, if I had to rank them, like that one's at the top of my list because I just I think I don't think you can go wrong there.
No.
It's one of the best things, not the best things that I ever watched, but as far as brawls are concerned, it's one of the most intriguing.
Yeah, I'm not a big fight watching guy. Like, I'm okay with watching like MMA and stuff because I know that that's their sport, right? They're professionals and they're trying to make a living doing this thing. I'm not a huge fan of like watching guys charge them out and get their ass kicked. It makes me kind of like, don't do it. He has a family. You know what I mean? Like,
right. You just don't want to see anybody get hurt.
Right. That's my biggest concern.
Like baseball is bigger than grown men getting pissed off and fighting each other.
Right. And
if this is hockey, I'm all about it. Hockey, I'm ready for the gloves to get tossed.
It's the culture.
Punches to get thrown.
Yeah,
because that's just what it's about. Baseball's not about fighting. Yes, it's been in the game. Benches cleared, all that stuff. But yeah. All right. What do you have on your list?
One of the ones that I think that people don't talk about a lot, that is one of my I guess it would probably be the second most recent fight that I could think of that we're going to talk about is Bryce Harper and Hunter Strickland.
That was Harper just chucks his helmet.
That was Memorial Day weekend of, let's see, Harper was on the National. So that was like 2016 or 2017, somewhere in that ballpark.
It's quite a while ago.
Yeah, and he just fucking launched it. I mean, Hunter Strickland hits him square in the side. I think he might have even hit him. He might have hit him
like in the ribs.
Yeah, it's either like the ribs or his hip or something like that. And Hunter Strickland at that point in time was throwing close to 100.
Right? It didn't feel good.
That's not soft. And Bryce Harper just comes out and launches, and it kind of makes it to me. It changed my opinion of Bryce Harper a little bit because I've always thought of him as just like a huge hothead, right? This just because he's been bigger than life since he was in high school. You know, he was a Sports Illustrated guy in high school.
When you're in 16 and you're in Yankee Stadium dropping bombs, like
yeah. So for him to throw his helmet at Strickland, but he did land a very, very clear punch to the mouth on Hunter Strickland, and he did not miss.
It was a clean shot.
It was a clean shot, and it rattled Hunter Strickland. And I also, one of the more iconic moments of that fight was, I don't know if you'll even remember this name. Do you remember Michael Morse?
Yeah.
Yeah. He retired after that because he got hurt in that fight.
Wow.
That was it. His career was over after that. Ooh. Pacers trading for Jarace Walker. Wizards taking Koulibaly, and the Pacers getting 2 future second-round picks out of it. So interesting move for Indiana to go after the blue-collar power forward versus the scoring small forward here.
Interesting.
Yeah. Very, very interesting move. I don't hate it for the Pacers. They struggle. They've struggled the last couple of years. They've struggled being athletic, and Jarace Walker is just that. So interested to see what they decide they want to do with him. You know, the Pacers historically haven't been bad at drafting in the first round, but then a memory popped up on Facebook for me that they drafted TJ Leaf in the first round the same year that Bam Adebayo was drafted. And I tried to repress that memory because TJ Leaf, I don't even know if he made it a full season with the Pacers before they put him in the G League. It was rough.
Jeez.
Yeah, rough.
All right. Yeah, so obviously the Bryce Harper, that is a good one. I think another one that I forgot about was Braves Brewers. Carlos Gomez absolutely tattoos one to left center.
That's right.
And he's just talking shit the entire time around the bases. Freddie Freeman's getting into him. Like, everybody's talking shit, and Gomez just keeps yapping. And Gomez rounds third, and McCann is just standing like halfway up the third baseline.
Yes.
And Gomez didn't even touch home plate before the teams just started throwing.
Yeah. Yeah, because they had talked about potentially not counting the run scoring on that because I don't think he ever crossed home plate.
He never touched home.
And here's the thing about Brian McCann. That's a big motherfucker. That's a big country boy. Brian McCann was when he was the catcher for the Braves.
Brian McCann is huge.
He was huge, 6'3", 250, probably somewhere in that, maybe even bigger by that time because he had been in the league for a minute.
Yeah.
And when that guy is standing between you and home plate, you got to really think about what your next moves are. You really got to
tread
think about
softly.
It. Yeah, I forgot about that, man. Holy smokes, that's a great call out. That was one of those fights too, because Freddie Freeman was pretty early on with the Braves by then. He might have been in year 2.
That was the first time. Like, I forgot that. Like, Freddie, like, he was deep in that fight. Like, he was swinging. I was like,
he was swinging, and it's weird too because he's such a laid back guy, or he kind of appears that way as a baseball player.
I think it had everything to do with what Gomez, like how Gomez hit that home run. Like, he hit that home run, he threw the bat and stared at it for a second before he started running.
You know what's funny though is that's baseball now.
It is baseball.
That was, what was that, 2014?
Yeah, early 2010s.
That was like don't forget that one of the reasons why one of the fights that we're going to talk about, I'm sure at some point this evening, is coming from Nora. Thank you for liking the video. Is coming from a multiple pimp job by Derek Dietrich. I'm sure you remember that, right?
Oh yeah,
wearing the sleeveless.
Yeah, and then they threw at they threw a Dietrich in the next at bat,
and then he hit a run. Yes, and it created a
I remember
between those two teams for that season, but. Yeah, I mean, think about that's less than 10 years ago, where if you did something like that, you got your ass kicked.
Mm-hmm.
Now
can't do that now.
Everybody pips home runs, right? And I don't hate it. I'm not coming out here saying I don't like that players do that. Like, if you hit a ball 430 feet, you should take a second to admire it. I don't care if you've hit it, if you've done it once or 700 times. Take a second to.
Incredibly tough.
It's just like when you complete a project. Yeah, when you complete a project, you want to take time to admire what you've done, right? It's like drafting in fantasy football. You look at your team after you're done. You look at it for a while. You're just figuring it out.
Yeah.
When you hit a home run, you want to take a second to figure out what you just did there. I'm all for it. But it's crazy that was just like, nope, don't do it. These older guys in baseball say it all the time. They hate it. They think it's bad for the game. Get used to it. It's going to pretty soon you're going to get to have fucking celebrations on the field. It's not that far away. It's not far away.
Hey, they're trying to make it exciting.
Again, I'm all here. I'm all in. I'm all in. I think it's fun to watch the celebration that Will Benson had when he hit that walk-off against the Dodgers, where he turns around and screams in the dugout, and there are 20 people at the front of the dugout screaming back at him. I got goosebumps just talking about it. It's a fucking beautiful moment.
That's one of the coolest clips I've seen in sports in a long time.
And baseball is built for those moments because it's not a super exciting game like football, right? Football is exciting. It's 3 hours of you. Oh, the Mavericks just drafted Case and Wallace. It's 3 hours of you just watching people beat the shit out of each other, and that's what you're paying for blood sport, right? When you're watching a football game.
Yeah.
In baseball, there's a lot of it's a lot of nickel and diming. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. So that celebration, I didn't see it the night of. I watched it the next day. Same. I was in the gym and I was fucking hyped watching him celebrate that way. Kendra, thank you for liking the video. So I'm here for the pimp jobs, but it's just so funny that Carlos Gomez did it all the time. And he was one of the most hated players when he was in his peak. I'm sure as a Reds fan, I fucking hated him. I hated him.
Nobody liked him.
Because he was good.
Everybody in the NL Central hated that guy.
Yeah, unless you were on the Brewers fan. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Kendra, thank you for liking the video. What's up? Yeah, that was, I don't know. It was a good kind of trip down memory lane, like kind of like we were discussing prior to coming on. It was just like, I went through like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 different YouTube videos to try to find, like, because all of them were a little different, had some different things in there. There was a lot of common fights though, which I've gotten a lot of the common ones written down, but that was one of them. And
yeah,
God, I just imagine, like, if like that Will Benson home run that happened this year happened 10 years ago.
Oh, he would have gotten his ass kicked.
There would have been a fight before he even got to first.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
for sure.
But yeah. All right. What else do you have?
Dude, A-Rod, Jason Varitek.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. A-Rod's like gets hit by the pitch. He's walking down the first base line.
You know who the pitcher was that hit him?
What? No, I don't.
It was Bronson Arroyo.
It was Arroyo.
It was fucking cornrow Bronson Arroyo that hit him. Yeah, and Jason Varitek immediately. And I you know, I'm not a Red Sox fan by any means, but I'm a Jason Varitek fan. And the way that he stepped in and just, there was no fake, it was all act. Like, that's a cool moment.
Yeah.
Because Bronson Arroyo still talks about that moment when he gives interview. I've heard multiple interviews that he's done where he talks about that moment where, you know, Arroyo's a young guy. It was a Red Sox team that was booming, right? I mean, you're talking about, that's a World Series team. So he was young and he was trying to figure his way through baseball, and he was told to hit Alex Rodriguez, right? He was told to do that. And that means something, right? Like when you're a young guy and you're trying to make your name on a roster, you do, right? You don't, if he goes out there and doesn't hit A-Rod,
he's gone.
He's done. You lose the respect of your teammates. When you start, and you're talking about, there's some big names from that 2004 Red Sox team. And Jason Varitek, and he kind of says it this way too, is that Jason Varitek, that was just his way of just saying, like, all right, you're good. You did your thing. Let me take care of you.
Right.
And it resulted in multiple injuries and a ton of suspensions. A ton.
Oh, yeah.
I believe A-Rod got 5 or 8 games for that. and Jason Varitek, I think, got 10. So that was a
big
monster.
one.
That was a monster fight, and especially that rivalry. That's one of the best rivalries in sports.
I have another one from that rivalry.
I bet you do.
It's one of the most iconic fights ever because it happened in the playoffs.
It did. It happened in the ALCS, didn't it?
Championship Series, Game 3.
Yeah.
When Pedro Martinez threw an 80-year-old man on the ground.
Dropped him like a fucking sack of potatoes.
Just absolutely just one of the most disgraceful things I've ever seen.
Don Zimmer didn't stand a chance. I
mean, what I don't know. I mean, at least Pedro didn't punch him, right?
Right.
You know, I mean, Zimmer's coming at him, man. I mean, I don't know how much you can blame him for just kind of
Tez, appreciate you liking the stream,
get out
brother.
of the way. But I was like, man, you just tossed an 80-year-old man on the ground, Pedro. Like, what are you doing?
Tez, come in here. Tell us your top 5 favorite fights in baseball history. And I think one of them for Bobby and I is not going to be in your top 5. maybe I'm wrong though, because that duked out for a while. But
that was definitely a good one, man. I think the next one for me, we had talked about it, was Amir Garrett. I titled this one, and when I wrote it down, it was Reds Pirates, and I wrote this as Amir versus the world.
Yeah, it is
because
Amir
it was
Garrett
just him.
You know what's crazy? I'm gonna talk about this one because hey, careful. So here's my thing about that fight. That Amir Garrett in that moment, that year of Amir Garrett, I was 100% on board with him, right?
Yeah,
because he was a fucking dog. He was a dog for the
He
Reds.
was the best pitcher we had on the team.
He was the best pitcher, and he was so clutch, and he's so passionate. The dude, he was 97% effective. Yeah, and they bring him in a situation that he should not have been brought in, and I firmly believe David Bell brought him in for that specific reason. Because that game, right? You got to remember, this is on the coattails of the whole Dietrich shit going down, right? And they're just chirping each other. Everybody's chirping each other. There's a lot of shit talking. There's still bad blood between the Pirates and the Reds. I mean, it's just historically, it's just always been the way, they've kind of treated each other. That's how Cincinnati and Pittsburgh kind of treat each other as a whole. But
doesn't matter what sport.
Yeah. So watching Amir Garrett take on 20 people and then 30 people and then 40 people. And, we talked about this before too. Like Yasiel Puig was an integral part of that fight when it was all said and done too. And here's the thing about Yasiel Puig. He sucks as a person. That dude's a fucking monster.
Great teammate.
Yeah. And he's huge and he's jacked. And if that guy comes at me and starts swinging, I'm done. I'm tapped out. And Amir Garrett is 6'6", 250, so 270. He's no slash. Corey, liking the stream, what's up, man? So, yeah, when that went down and he starts charging the dugout, I remember watching the game. I stood up and I'm screaming at the TV. I'm screaming because I'm so hyped. I'm like in the moment with Amir Garrett there. But this is where Amir Garrett falls off with me because after that fight, he was never really the same pitcher afterwards.
Yeah.
He really, really declined. And what really took his career and turned it upside down was the 3-hitter rule.
Yeah.
Because Amir Garrett was, and at that point in time, he was the best lefty-on-lefty pitcher in baseball.
He was.
He was unhittable lefty-on-lefty. Unhittable. And after that, he just was never the same. But he had that same arrogance about him because it went from when you're playing really well and you're balling out like he was, that's confidence, right? That's a confident pitcher. But when after that and he was not as successful, that's arrogance. And
for sure.
Arrogance got in the way of him a lot being successful towards the end of his Reds career. Now he's having a nice year with Kansas City, but he's a father of 2 now. You could tell that he's
calmed down a little bit.
And the only person that hit that chirp back and forth, and this is an honorable mention for Brawls, but it never really came to this, was him and Javi Baez. They just followed each other.
I wish
they
it would
follow
have.
each other, right? Because I'm sure you remember
Amir Garrett would have went in my Hall of Fame if you had clocked Baez in the face.
Yeah.
God.
So it started with Javier Baez pimping a home run off of Amir Garrett. Right? Amir Garrett didn't like
No
it.
doubt the guy can play. I just absolutely despise Javier Baez.
Next
I cannot
time,
stand him.
Rather than Amir Garrett hitting him, Amir went right after him, struck him out. Amir Garrett screaming at him. He's go, sit the fuck down. Sit down, screaming at him as he's going back to the dugout. And they hate each other. And they're on two of the worst teams in baseball. And they still hate each other.
Yeah.
I love the rivalry between those two because it's kind of like two C-list celebrities feuding with each other.
Yeah.
You're like, nobody's talking about it, but when you see it pop up, you're like, yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. That's fun. Like, that's how I feel. That's how those are.
Tez coming in the comments saying, putting my bias aside, I can deal with the Martinez incident over soft-ass Cueto kicking someone in the face with metal cleats any day. Cueto was still booed when he was in town with the Giants. Loser. Tez, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't disagree with that comment. I think it's pretty cheap to kick somebody in the face, especially with a metal cleat. I don't think that's okay by any means. If you're going to brawl in baseball, you don't bring the feet out. It's fists.
Yeah, it's your fists.
It's your fists. If you're bringing feet out, you're just a little punk that just is just afraid of getting hit. I mean, granted, Cueto did get pinned up against the. I don't know if I can't say the kick wasn't intentional because it certainly did look intentional. But
yeah, he was. I mean, it's kind of like it's like cornering a lion, right? I mean, he got pushed up against the backstop, and
I don't know, maybe.
And Tez, I'm just telling you, I don't condone what he did because I'm with Bobby on this one. Like, I don't like that he kicked his way out of it, but that fight is kind of the centerpiece of the rivalry between the Cardinals and the Reds too, because I don't think either team is over that still either. Because you watch those games, there's more baseball's chirpy in general because pitchers are just fucking weird and they just talk shit to everybody. Doesn't matter.
Right.
But there's a lot of trash talk, especially maybe it's subsided a little bit this year, but Yadier Molina really held on to that for his whole career. He really did. And I understand why, because he was kind of the center of it.
He was there for I mean, it all started with him and BP.
It did.
And that's kind of where like the bad blood was initiated because I mean, granted the Cardinals and the Reds have never really liked each other, but I feel like they were civil up until that point where him and Phillips got into it, and then they had their first fight, and then it kind of snowballed.
For a while too, they were two of the better teams in the National League. I mean, historically, like in the
especially in the 70s, 80s,
in the early 2000s, They were two of the better teams in the National League, and they have to face each other, I don't know, 50 times a year. So 36 times a year. So it's a lot. So
Tez, we're not over it either, just for the record. We've taken a lot of beatings from Cardinals fans, whether it's on the scoreboard or actually on the field. But
we are
but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I think it's a good thing to have rivalry, the fighting. I could do without it, but as long as nobody's getting hurt, I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? Just some punches here and there. That's all it needs to be. Anything other than that, kicking, I do not condone it. So I don't. I kind of agree with you a little bit, Tez. It kind of hurts coming out of my mouth, but it is what it is. All right, so we obviously have that one. I have a few more, and one of them still involves the Reds, but it's a different NL Central team. This is the one that we were discussing with Kyle Farnsworth.
Farnsworth and Paul Wilson.
Where Kyle Farnsworth Paul Wilson's just started talking shit, and Farnsworth charges him, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And just absolutely just textbook tackle, and then 3 or 4 shots to the face.
Yep. And Paul Wilson never stood a chance.
Just absolutely beat his ass.
And Kyle Farnsworth was a psycho. He was a psycho.
He's still a psycho.
I know, but when he pitched, I mean, he was really at that point in time, I think he might have been the only guy throwing 100.
Yeah.
I think. There might have been maybe 1 or 2 others in the early 2000s doing it, but he's the only one when I think of who was doing it at that point in time. Farnsworth's my guy. And if he would have been on any other team besides the Cubs. He would probably be in the conversation for me as one of my favorite pitchers, because that dude went out on the mound and did nothing but handle business. And he wasn't John Rocker nuts, right? Kyle Farnsworth was like the definition of blue collar. Yeah. He was the definition of blue collar, shut your mouth, get to work, get him in, get him out. Let's get this game over with.
Yeah.
And he did it for a while. I think if people were to look back at his career, they would be surprised at how long Kyle Farnsworth was effective in baseball. But he was just a guy that, like, I hated him. I love to hate him, or I hated. Let me make sure. I loved him, but I hated him because he was on the Cubs, and the Cubs at that point in time were starting to get decent again. They were getting better. Yeah. And Sammy Sosa was on those teams. And I hated Sammy Sosa. Still don't like Sammy Sosa. So it was hard for me to associate anybody on that team. But I remember watching Kyle Farnsworth in my living room with my dad on TV, and my dad saying to me, one of the first times we watched him, is like, I've never seen anybody throw that hard before. I don't know if we will ever again. Right now, obviously, there's 40 guys.
The whole game's changed.
Yeah, there's a ton of guys throwing 100 now. But I thought that's a really cool moment in my head where, you know, my dad's been watching baseball for 60 years.
Yeah.
And to see that and be like, this is a pretty memorable moment. Like, that's pretty dope. And Kyle Farnsworth, he always reminds me of that.
Absolutely. All right. Next.
Dude, I got one for you. And I don't know if, because this is technically not Major League Baseball related. This is World Baseball Classic. So I don't know if you remember this one. This was the 2013 World Baseball Classic between Mexico and Canada.
Okay, looking it up right now.
So this one wasn't just players fighting each other. There were people in the stands of this game fighting each other. So this wasn't just a player-on-player brawl. This was members of the general attendance fighting for their country. It was bench clearing, bullpen clearing. People were getting kicked out. People got arrested. And the World Baseball Classic, that was its.
So Canada is just absolutely waxing them.
Was 2013 the first World Baseball Classic?
I'm not sure. We can fact check that here in a second.
Yeah, let me look that up. Because I'm trying to remember when they took away baseball from the Olympics. Oh, sorry, it was 2006. So that would have been the third one.
They do it every 3 years?
Right?
Or every 4 years?
Every 3. Yeah, so it was. So, yeah, because Japan won the first 2, and then the third year was when the Dominican Republic, that was Javier Baez, remember, with the tag? Like the
yeah.
that he had, where he was pointing to Yadier Molina before he even tagged him.
Yeah. I'm watching this fight right now.
Dude, it's a monster. It's a monster brawl. To me, it's one of the biggest fights in baseball history, because it's more soccer than baseball, the way this fight goes down, because it's fans fighting each other. It's insane.
Yeah, fans getting kicked out. Like, holy shit.
It was nuts.
That's wild. Yeah. No, I actually didn't remember that one. What up, Veronica?
Let's go.
Yeah, I think one more that I actually forgot about was Cubs Sox. AJ Pierzynski. That one where he's where he slaps the plate, and then they just he runs him over, his play at the plate, runs him over, and then he slaps the plate, let's go, and then fight breaks out. But the other one that I was thinking of was Jose Bautista.
Oh,
when he slides into second.
Oh,
and then slides into second, dirty slide, and then Bautista just gets clocked.
Part of the
Yes.
thumbnail, baby. Shout out
Yeah.
to John for putting together a nasty thumbnail. If y'all, once we get done
John's
watching this,
goat.
check out the thumbnail again. But oh yeah, dude, Jose Bautista getting rocked by a fully bearded Rougned Odor. It was brutal.
It was
brutal.
It could be the cleanest punch in the history of MLB.
Well, he was not ready. He blindsided him. He was not ready.
Well,
Jose Bautista was not prepared.
You got to be ready. You got to be ready if you're going to make a slide like that.
You know what's crazy though is that I think it took both teams a second to realize what had happened. Because I remember watching that fight for the first time and there's like no movement. It was like a standstill.
Yeah, and then everybody saw the slide and then looked at first, and then this fight was happening as the play like had just finished up, and they're like, "What the hell just happened?" And then they're like, "Oh shit, we got to get out there."
Yeah, nuts, dude. I think that might be the cleanest punch in baseball history.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't disagree with that. It's so there's been a lot of interesting ones, but that was definitely one where I was just like, wow. There's a lot of history with the fights and the MLB, and it was just kind of fun to go down memory lane. I think Rob gave us that topic last week, so Rob,
he did. Shout out to Rob. Man. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, that's a great one. Obviously, this is way before our time, and even Ventura, Nolan Ryan's before our time, but I've seen plenty of clips when this has been shown on MLB Network, ESPN of the Braves and the Padres, the fight from the mid 80s. I think it's like 84, 85, where
that lasted like 20 minutes.
They couldn't break it up. I mean, it was insane. Yeah. I mean, it was 50 on 50 and these guys would not stop hitting each other. It's one of the I think it might be one of the longest, other than Malice in the Palace. I believe it's the longest fight duration of a fight in a game.
Malice in the Palace.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was a big deal. And baseball had to really sit down and take a look at rules after that because a lot of guys got hurt and there was no control. The umpires walked off the field.
So was that the fight where like the dugouts didn't have any like fencing and people like went into the dugouts and like broke ankles and shit?
Yes.
Like yeah,
yes.
that was gnarly. I remember I remember watching that one. Yeah,
that was
because back in the day, like dugouts didn't have like all the fencing that they do now. So like like it was just wide open. Like somebody pulls a line drive in a dugout, your head's got to be on a swivel.
Yeah,
So
and that
was crazy.
That was at the very beginning of Tony Gwynn's career, and he spoke of that fight often as one of those like kind of defining moments where he wasn't sure if baseball was even for him. Thank God he stuck around, right? But like,
for sure,
he just wasn't prepared for something of that magnitude to go down. But
I don't know how anybody can be prepared for that.
Yeah, so I think this is a fun one because for especially for me, I'm a super analytical guy. I get kind of lost in the stats, and I start jotting notes down and I'm looking at numbers. This is the first episode that we've done where I just didn't have to look at anything except for watch 7 YouTube videos.
Right.
It was dope.
Just go down memory lane.
Yes.
Not a lot to remember outside of who was fighting and why it happened.
Right. So Rob, thank you again, because again, I consider myself to be a pacifist in the world, but I mean, when we haven't even talked about yet, I don't even know if you remember this one, Bobby, but it was Armando Benitez and Tino Martinez, Orioles and the Yankees.
You know what? I think I saw that one as I was perusing YouTube videos.
Don't quote me on this, but I believe this was 1998, somewhere in that ballpark.
Let me see if I can find it.
Bernie Williams hits a home run. Armando Benitez follows up by beating Tino Martinez with a 96-mile-an-hour fastball.
Didn't he hit him on the elbow or something?
He hit him in the spine. He hit him in the lower back.
Dead center. Okay, that's right.
And Tino Martinez gave him the fucking business afterwards. Beat the shit out of Armando Benitez. It took, I believe it took 2 people to peel Tino Martinez off of Armando Benitez. And
you
Armando
said this was Sox Orioles?
No, it was Yankees Orioles.
Yankees Orioles.
Yeah, because it was Bernie Williams that hit the home run, and then Tino Martinez was next up.
Sorry, I just want to watch this real quick.
98. I believe, is the year on that one. Again, don't quote me on that, but that's what my gut tells me after watching so many videos today.
5/19/1998, the Yanks and O's rumble in the Big Apple. God, Bernie Williams, man.
One of the better switch hitters of all time. Doesn't get credit where credit's due there.
Yeah.
It was a great hitter. Was a great hitter.
Oh, shit. You know that shit hurt.
Watch Tito.
Benitez is like, let's go. Bring it. I don't think you want that smoke, big dog.
It's a good one. Tino gives him the business, bro. Gives him the business. It's a good one.
Good Lord. It's just wild to see grown-ass men fight over a children's game.
Yep.
Oh! Yeah, that's one that went in the dugout, too. That was gnarly. That right hook was not to be messed with.
There's another good one from the early 90s. It was the Mariners and the Orioles. It was Mike Mussina, actually, was the pitcher. And the catcher wouldn't have been Russell. It wouldn't have been Russ Wilson because that was late. That'd have been Brad Hasselman. And I believe somebody in that fight, because that one also almost made its way to the dugout. And I believe somebody from the Orioles ended up either like breaking an elbow or like dislocating their shoulder or something crazy happened in that fight too. That's a good one. That's a doozy of a fight. Those 90s fights. And fun fact, that Ventura Nolan Ryan fight was 1993.
Jeez.
Nolan Ryan pitched until 1995. He's pitching in the 60s. He's pitching in the 50s, in the late 50s in the minor leagues.
Wow. 40 years on the mound. That's wild. All right. Rob, always, man, thank you for the topic. If anybody in here watching has a topic or anything fun that you think would make for some good conversation here, please do not hesitate to throw it out in the chat. We will definitely take your ideas and roll with it, as you can see. Now, Todd, as we get into the back half of our show here, we've got to talk about the Reds. We've got to talk about the Reds. They are winners of 11 straight, and they currently hold a 1.5 game lead in the NL Central, which is well above and beyond any expectation that we had for this team this season. What are your thoughts?
I'm excited. Right. So here, let me put this all together. I'm excited that they're winning right now, but they're also every team that they've beaten, they should be beating. Right. They should beat the Royals. They should beat the Cardinals. Sorry, Tez, they're the worst team in the NL Central right now.
We talked about that today.
They should beat the Rockies, right? They might be the worst team in the National League. The Royals are the worst team in the American League. They're the worst team in baseball overall. They're worse than the A's right now. And the Astros are not playing well. And they didn't face any of the Astros' good pitching. So should they win those games? Yes. Should they win 11 of them in a row? Probably not, right? Eight of those 11 wins are comeback wins. Over 2/3 of their wins this year have been comeback wins, right? Where they're having to fight back and call in to get back into a game. Bruce, appreciate you liking the stream, brother.
Bruce.
So, yeah, dude, I'm excited. I'm excited. I mean, we got to watch Matt McClain. We got to watch Andrew Abbott. We got to obviously watch Ellie De La Cruz. He's the most electric player in baseball right now. I don't know. I don't think that's an argument. Lost Bobby here. That's no bueno. Might have to give him the invite back here in a second. Give me 1 second here for the technical difficulties here. Oh, there he is.
Not sure what just happened there, but we're back.
We lost you, baby. Lost you for a minute.
Here.
So a lot of really exciting things happen at one time for Reds fans and for the Reds as a whole as an organization. All this young talent culminated at the same exact time.
And we still have an ace in the hole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Carlos Encarnacion Strand.
Yeah, we haven't seen Encarnacion Strand make his debut yet. We haven't had to see it yet.
Not yet.
And then you couple that, right? So it's we got to see De La Cruz, we got to see McLean, then we got to see De La Cruz, we got to see Andrew Abbott. I mean, he just gave up his first run and into his third start in the big leagues. That's exciting for a pitcher.
Yeah.
And you brought back the face of the franchise in Joey Votto, and he comes back and has a monster game.
And contributed. Like,
yes.
That like we had talked about, like that was our main concern was, do you even bring him back into the lineup at this point? Like, is he going to be able to come in and just kind of be effective? And obviously we saw the result.
Right. And it's he's cool. He cooled off afterwards. Right. But I mean, there was so much electricity. It was so much. And I think it's the first time, and I'll have a, for those listening or, tuning in now, I have a blog post that's almost ready. I'm putting the final touches on it that kind of shares the emotions of my experience as being, I would say of the four of us, the most passionate, overall Cincinnati sports fan. I don't want to put myself as the Bengals fan. Corey definitely couples me in that, but I'm pretty embedded into the history of the Reds and pretty comfortable with the Bengals. But it's honestly, dude, it's been really hard for me to not like sink into it. I was talking to a guy at work today. He's a Reds fan. He's a Cincinnati, he's a Cincinnati plug into, or, fixture into Columbus. And we were talking about the Reds today, and he's so hyped up. And we got towards the end of the conversation, and he was like, you remember how 2010 felt? Like, yes, this is it. We're in the same situation right now, because you got to remember that 2010 team had all of the same fixings that this team has, except it's just different names, and it's names that people in Cincinnati will occasionally shit on, right? It's like Jay Bruce was young, Joey Votto was young, Drew Stubbs was young, Cueto was young, Latos was young, Aaron Harang was still there. So there was all these big Cincinnati names, right?
Yeah.
And Brandon Phillips, right? I'm not even talking about Brandon Phillips. Like, there were so many big names that happened all at the same time, and the Reds were really good, and they made the playoffs. And it was, to me, still to this, it's the biggest heartbreak I've had as a Cincinnati sports fan.
Yeah.
That playoff series against the Giants.
Buster Posey, man.
Other than Jeremy Hill fumbling against the Steelers, that grand slam sits at the top as like one of the worst feelings I've ever had in sports.
Yeah.
Jeremy Hill's fumble is number one, right? And then, it's not obviously number one for you. And then a very close number two is Buster Posey's grand slam.
That was a straight kick to the dick.
Dude, I just remember the feeling that I had where every ounce of like confidence, positive energy, anything that I could say, it was all gone. It was all gone because you could feel
one swing. The whole everything just left.
The fucking river started going in a different direction. I think a tornado happened in Kentucky right behind the stadium. Like, everything changed. And do you remember how the rest of that series went? It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare.
It's 4-game sweep.
Right. So then Roy Halladay throws a perfect game, right? In the next series, at the time the Reds get to the playoffs. And there was very low expectation. That was a fluky year. And then 2020 happens. The COVID year happens. And this one's close for you and I because, you had just moved up here. We were across the street neighbors. And this is all we did. We watched baseball. We talked about baseball. And that was it. We were fully invested in it because we were doing this shit too, right?
Yep.
We were getting ready to do this stuff. We had already started talking about it a little bit. And we were so invested in that. And I remember the phone call that you and I had when they lost that second game or the third game to the Braves. We were like, why the fuck do we keep doing this to ourselves? Why does this keep happening?
And I am committed. I am committed to not being excited right now.
I know. And
I'm committed.
I remember the feeling that you and I had. Remember when they clinched the NL Central against the Pirates? How good that felt.
Yeah.
the Pirates. And then they played the Twins and they clinched a spot, like kind of getting some home field advantage. Like, remember how good that felt? How important that was to you and I, and how quickly it all dissipated. That's the kind of stuff I think, and it's not fair, right? It's not fair for me to kind of say I'm excited and then shit on the Reds, but that's the reality of being, a passionate baseball fan or a passionate Reds fan. Excuse me.
Well, here's the thing, man. I have set myself up for heartbreak too many times, and I will start getting excited once I see this success continue post All-Star break.
That's fair.
If they can get through the month of July, which is coming up very, very soon, if they can get through the entire month of July, especially like the back half, trade deadline is going to be like my day. If they are still in contention around the trade deadline, I'm going to start getting excited. But my expectations are tempered because they always get hot going right into the All-Star break, which is coming up in a couple weeks. And then bam, something happens between All-Star weekend, pre-All-Star weekend, and post-All-Star weekend. Something in there occurs every time, and it falls apart. If they can somehow figure that out and get that done this year, I'm going to start getting excited. But I'm not going to allow myself to get hurt.
The walls up. You get the
walls
wall around.
The walls are up.
You have the.
They're like up here.
Yeah, you have the chastity belt built around your heart right now, trying to prepare you for the moment. Yeah, here's the thing, man, and again, I want to give the Reds credit, right?
They deserve it
because they deserve it. Matt McClain is okay. Ellie De La Cruz is the best prospect in baseball, right? Matt McClain, to me, feels the most sustainable in baseball for terms of duration of career, right? Because Matt McClain's more than likely going to be a 280 to 310 hitter every single year and be a very effective middle infielder. He could do it for a decade.
Yeah.
Ellie De La Cruz is probably going to hit 40 home runs at some point in time in the next couple of years. More than likely. And he's also going to steal 40 bases. So I think Ellie De La Cruz, Ellie De La Cruz fills the wow stats of baseball.
Mm-hmm. Whereas
Matt McClain kind of fills the sustainability of a team, right? Or of a franchise. And again, when they drafted Matt McClain, you were neighbors. Like, we're talking about it. I'm excited about it because it was like it was, to me, it was better than Nick Senzel at that point in time to me, because you're drafting the best hitter coming out of college baseball. You had just done it 4 years prior or 3 years prior, and you're like, all right, well, slow down. Like, I've been in this feeling before. I remember when they drafted Nick Senzel, my dad and I talking about it, and me telling my dad, like, they just found their third baseman for the next 12 years, and then they turned him into an outfielder. Right? So I tried to like lower my expectations for Matt McClain a little bit, and I've just been following him for the last year and a half, and I'm like, I can't not be excited about this guy. Yeah. It took him 2 weeks to go from UCLA to Dayton to figure it out. It took him 2 weeks.
That's really quick.
That's a ball player. And the dude's already won him 2 games. He's hitting over 300 still. I mean, to get called up and bat second,
that's a tall task.
It's all important, right? And I think that's the thing that I want to make sure where I give my credit to the Reds is like what they're doing right now is important. It's the hottest thing in baseball.
Yeah, that's one thing I will say is there's been like social media, TikTok. Like I watch a lot of TikTok, but I've seen a lot of Reds on TikTok, and I'm like,
you have to. It's the sexiest thing in sports.
Right now, it is. Absolutely.
It is. Football's done for a little bit, right? Until you get back to training camp. Basketball, all you're talking about is the draft. There's not as many people invested in the NBA draft as there are for the NFL or whatever. This is it. This is the best thing that you can get from sports right now, because it's young guys winning games, celebrating in style, and a lot of young guys with a fuck ton of swag. They all just exude a crazy amount of confidence when they're on the field. And again, I love it. I love watching guys like, "What's up, Carp? How you doing, man? Appreciate you stopping in." I love watching Jonathan India. Dude, just the fucking Viking home run celebration that the Reds have. I love it.
It's pretty sweet.
I love it. And you can tell the dugout just it looks different. So I'm with you, man. I'm doing as much as I physically can to bring myself off the cloud and back onto my feet. I've been teetering it a lot. And this tomorrow is a big game. They're playing the Braves this weekend, y'all. Like, that's the best team in the AL or in the NL East. That's one of the best teams in the National League.
Yep.
That's the best starting. That's the best starting rotation in the National League.
I might try to catch a game this weekend. Maybe go down Saturday or Sunday.
There you go.
Now that you mentioned it, I'm like, I probably need to get down there and see a game. I know I'm going to go see the Padres when they're in town. So that'll be.
Are you? You're gonna go down there and play the Padres?
Yeah, be a good series to catch.
You know, and the Reds are lucky because they just missed Bryce Elder and Spencer Strider. They just missed their two best pitchers.
I would have loved to have seen Strider, though.
So if you wait till Sunday, you can see Charlie Morton pitch. It might be the last time you get to see him pitch.
Facts. I am going Saturday, unfortunately.
Okay, that's fair. But see, Carp said the same thing. It looks like their lower level rotation is going to be starting against us. You're right. That's what I just fact checked myself because Corey had just said something in the group chat about Spencer Strider's mustache. I'm like, well, that means he just started. He had to have started this week, so they're not catching him. And I remember seeing Bryce Elder's stats on Monday, so I figured they weren't going to catch him either. So it's look, if you're gonna run it, these are the three worser.
This is a pretty good couple teams they're going to be facing. You know, they got the Braves, they got the Orioles, and they got the Padres back to back. So obviously,
are they in Baltimore?
Yeah, they're in Baltimore for that series.
Damn.
I definitely would have went down if the O's were in town.
I got to see Adley Rutschman play. I got to see if the Guardians play the Orioles anytime in the near future. Try to get up there to see Adley Rutschman play.
Hey, let me know when you make the trip.
I want to see him play. He's a guy you got to see in person.
Because
we're gonna be talking about him for a long time.
Let's take a look at the Guardians schedule here and see if we can put a date on the board.
But yeah, to put a bow on the Reds, I love the excitement right now, right? But I'm doing everything in my power just to relax.
Yeah,
that's the best way I can. Like, I'm just trying to relax. I'm trying to chill through this whole thing because if I get too invested in it, Carp said taking the team Friday to watch as a group, as a team builder with the City Connects. That's right. Tomorrow they're wearing the City Connect uniforms. Likely going to be damn near close to a sold out crowd tomorrow, Carp. So get yourself down there and be safe, brother, because it's gonna be crowded down there tomorrow at the Banks. Getting ready for that game, and let me know if Austin Riley is as legit as he appears to be on television as well.
Yes, please. Please take notes and come to next week's show and let us know what's happening.
Yeah, we don't have anything ready yet for next Thursday. We're gonna have to talk about that.
Yeah. So, as we had said previously, Chad, if you guys have anything or fun things that we could talk about, please let us know. We're always open to suggestions. All right. Well, Todd, closing thoughts for today's show.
Go Reds. Go Reds. I'm excited.
Man, I'm here. I'm gonna watch. I'm just saying. My expectations are tempered. I am a little excited. It's nice to see them having some success early. I just want to see it continue. Yeah, I'd say it's like Kobe's mentality. Job's not finished. Job's not finished yet. I need to see the job at least continued through July, and then I can start feeling some sort of emotion.
I like it. Good mentality to have, dude.
Absolutely. Well, Carp, sorry you got in here so late. Pod will be up early tomorrow if you want to catch it while you're on the road. But best closers of all time next week, and best uniform draft to start.
Ooh.
So are we doing City Connects? Are we? Because we already did
We've done City
Connects, right?
Connect already.
Should we do?
Dude, let's just here. So here's my thought. We just 3 rounds, top 3 favorites. We just back forth. Yep.
Everything on the table.
Everything's on the table. All time. I love it, dude. I'm with it.
We might have to go 5 rounds for that, but I don't know if I can narrow it to 3. I don't think that would be fair.
Let's do 5. I'm in. That's a great one.
Now we're doing this draft style. Like once it's gone, it's gone.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I can dig it. And best closers of all time. We could definitely talk about that. I don't think we'll do a draft because I think we've already talked about this. Or at least we've touched on it quite a bit, but we can definitely dig into it and put together a mutual list, I think.
Yeah. Well, we just talked about, I don't know if it was before the NBA finals or not, but talked about just like closer, the dynamic of the closer changing and talking about just discussing that in general.
It's still a good combo piece. So we'll touch on it.
Yep.
All right. Perfect. Carp, thank you, man.
Appreciate you, brother. Tune in next week.
Appreciating the ideas, chat, for everybody who stopped by. Appreciate the likes and the shares. Make sure to tune in Wednesday for the Degenerates. And as always, we'll be back Thursday with this excellent uniform draft. Now, I am very excited for that. All right. For Todd, I'm Bobby. Catch you guys next week. Peace.